Okay. All right. So let's do some shurim on the Hagadah, and I just want to give today. I want to do two things. I want to give a bit of a hakdama, and we'll start halachma as well. But I need to give a hakdama on the mitzvah of the Hagadah and what I want from these shurim. So now, the mitzvah of the Hagadah, what the Hagadah, first we have to understand, because the Hagadah is actually, it's a very hard sefer. It's a very hard sefer, the Hagadah. And it's one of the oldest texts that we have. It was already established at the times of the Gemara. In other words, it was before the times of the Gemara. Whoever put the Hagadah together as we have it, right? I'm saying the Gemara discusses all the nuschot, right? So it was already there. You know, when it actually came, I don't know if we know exactly, but this is one of the oldest texts that we have, right? It's before the Siddur, right? Yeah, and it's a very obviously it's very deep, and it's a very hard sefer. And what do I mean by that it's hard is like this. The Hagadah is there to allow you to be makayim the mitzvah of the Hagadah Rabincha. That's what the Hagadah is there to do. There is a mitzvah deoraisa. We in Bezman Hazeh, we have two mitzvahs deoraisa on the Leila Seder. All right, get comfortable, guys. Get comfortable. Okay. We have to decide what we're going to do tomorrow. Whether we'll kick them out and we'll bring them here. Okay, fine. Okay, but Seder, right? So we have two mitzvahs deoraisa Bezman Hazeh on the Leila Seder. One is the matzah, and the other mitzvah deoraisa is the Hagadah Rabincha. Right? In the times of Beis Hamikdash, it was like Korban Pesach, Hagigah, we had some others, and Moror was a deoraisa. When you have a Korban Pesach, Moror also becomes deoraisa. But Bezman Hazeh, we have two mitzvahs deoraisa, and it's Hagadah Rabincha. Right? So that's what the Hagadah is there to facilitate. It's there to get you to be makayim that mitzvah, right? Which is a mitzvah deoraisa. Okay. Now, what is the mitzvah? And I always when I want to bring this out, there's the Shiloh that's brought down by Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim asked, what's the difference between the mitzvah of Hagadah Rabincha and your mitzvah that you have every day, Kol Yomei Chayecha, which is brought in the Hagadah, of to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every day and every night? What's the chiluk? You have a mitzvah to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. You have a chiyuv liskor et Yetzias Mitzrayim Kol Yomei Chayecha. You have to say Behedya that we came out of Mitzrayim every day. What's the chiluk between that and the mitzvah of Hagadah Rabincha? It's a shayla that Reb Chaim asks. Right? Okay. So now. Yeah, you know, you can say it in a nice yeshivish way. Are you already Yotzei Hagadah Rabincha when you say Kriya Shema? Yeah, okay, fine, we'll say that. Yeah. So what's the difference? There's pasha that you're not, right? There's pasha that you're not, and the chiluk is like this. The chiluk is, we'll build it. We'll build it like this. Let's look at the Rambam, right? The Rambam that we've all been learning this perek, Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah Perek Zayin, which is critical perek in Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah in the Rambam. So he says, Mitzvat Aseh Shel Torah lesaper b'nisim v'niflaot shenasu l'avoteinu b'Mitzrayim. So mitzvah Aseh, to speak about the nisim and the niflaos, lesaper. He uses the lashon of lesaper. Belel Chamisha Asa shenem azachor yom asher yatzat Mitzrayim kumo shenazachor yom Shabbat u'meinayin shebelel Chamisha Asa tamulom Hagadah Rabincha b'yom hahu. Says on that day lemo bavozeh Sha'aseli sheyesh matzah bezman sheyesh matzah u'maror munachim lefanecha. The time that you have to be makayim this mitzvah is when you have the matzah and the maror munachim lefanecha. Is the mitzvah v'Hagadah Rabincha. Now, the Rambam says that it's a mitzvah to lesaper b'nisim v'niflot, and here's the chiluk. The difference between Hagadah Rabincha and your chiyuv, there's a chiyuv zechira and there's a chiyuv Hagadah. Which the Rambam translates as lesaper. What's the difference? A sipur, by definition, is it's a story. That's what that means. You're supposed to speak it out as a story. You have no chiyuv to do that. You have to remember that we came out of Mitzrayim. The chiyuv of Hagadah lebincha is lesaper. Right? And the reason, and what's the nafkamina of lesaper? There's common nafkaminas. Right? For example, we'll see the Rambam brings here, right, and the Gemara, this is just the Gemara. The Rambam is just paskening the Gemara.
By yourself.
What?
By yourself. Is enough Gemara, no? If you're by yourself.
Even if by yourself, yeah. In other words, Hagadah lebincha is even by yourself. That's true, right? You have to say it over, right? Right. So now, you have to start with gnus and be masayim b'shvach. And there's a machlokas Rav and Shmuel. What's the gnus? What's the shvach? Right. The sugi is in the Gemara. Mm-hmm. Why is there a chiyuv? Why do you have to start with gnus and b'sayim b'shvach? Why? Right. What is the whole sof? Where is the end point of the Haggadah? Where is the Haggadah coming to take you? What is the end of the Haggadah? What does it say? That is the sort of the pinnacle of the Haggadah. All of that is coming from the din of sipur. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The point of a sipur is that you're telling a story. A story means, and just want to be madgish this is shorshei ha'emunah. The whole inyan, and this is dvarim pshutim, that the whole inyan of the Leila Seder is to be mashrish to yourself and to your family, emunas Yisrael. Right? And the Torah, Chazal are telling us that the way that you do that is alidei sipur. You have to say the story over, and a story, the whole idea of a story is that it has a mahalach. Right? A story is not just a whole set of random facts and vortlach. That's a terrible story. That's an awful novel, right? You will never in a million years sell a novel that's just info, right? That's boring, right? The whole nakuda of a novel, of a story, is that it touches you, it resonates with you, and it brings you into it, right? It's a mahalach. It's a story, right? That's the whole idea of that's Hagadah, lahagid, to say the story, the nisim and the niflaot, and you have to be matzche b'gnus and masayim b'shvach, because there's a nukuda, a critical nukuda in the story was that we were low and we came up. We'll talk about that. Right? All these details are relevant in the fact, in as much that there's a chiyuv lesaper, to say a story, to speak it over, that it should touch you, it should resonate with you, and that you should at the end feel that it's shaykh to you. The end point of the Haggadah is that you should understand that this story is relevant to you and it should touch you. That's the whole point. That's a whole nakuda. Why do I have to see that I came out myself? Right, that's we'll maybe talk about that when we get to the end. Why is that so critical? But it should do that to you. It should touch you. It should resonate with you. That is the chiyuv of sipur. That is the chiyuv of sipur, and that is totally different from the chiyuv of zechira. You're for sure not yotze that when you say Kriya Shema. So now, what that means though is like this. What's that mechayev us? And this is why the Haggadah is such a hard sefer. That means that the Haggadah was constructed, and if it was done by Chazal, and there was for sure Ruach HaKodesh, and maybe even Nevuah, we don't know, right? But that means that is the best way to tell the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's the best way. If Chazal were kaveya that is the text, this is the best text that you could possibly have to be makayim the mitzvah of telling over the story, that it should be relevant and it should touch you and it should bring you to a point that you feel that you just came out and now you just break out into Hallel. Right? Now, I guarantee every single one of us, including myself, sitting around this table, if I asked you to say to write a text that would tell over the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, probably the last text that you would have come out with is the Haggadah. The last one. Right? Yeah, it's the last thing you would have written. This is random droshes. I'm Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Harikim Shimshona, it starts with Arami Oivedavi, Ma'akeshe, and the four psukim. It's just like, and you don't even mention Moshe Rabbeinu, right? The whole thing, right? It's like it's the last text you would have done, right? So what's going on? What's the pshat? What is pshat in this text? Right? If we understand building from the halacha, and the Rambam is basically just paskening the Gemara, right? That is the chiyuv, and this is the text that is used. It's what's going on over here. And the reason for that is that we just don't understand it. And that's what I want to achieve with these shurim. I want to show you what the Baal Hagadah is doing. Right? In other words, like this is a problem that a lot of us do because it's such a hard text, and it's bemet a hard text. You end up just picking the I don't know, every year you the Hagadah of the Netziv, of the Hagadah of the Briskas, or the Hagadah of the Reb Chaim, and you just rattle out some vortlach, right? And it's totally disjointed, and there's no story happening over there. There's no sipur, right? And it just doesn't touch you, right? And you're missing the point. You're missing the boat. Right? A good story is when all of the details fit into the general theme. That's a good story. Right? In other words, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have all the vortlach and everything else. For sure, you need that, right? And that's fantastic. And these and all these vortlach was said over by G'dayla Olam Mamash, right? For sure. But you have to understand what the Hagadah is doing. You have to understand the skeleton of what the Hagadah is. What is the purpose of the Hagadah? What is each stage of the Hagadah coming to do? And what is the story that's happening, that's unfolding in front of us? Then you say, there's a diak in the Hagadah. Why did he say it like that? Because at the end of the day, it's a text from Chazal, right? And you'll see that every little knetch in the Hagadah is actually a detail in the story. And then it's gavaldik. Right? It's a different world. But you've got to have the skeleton first. Right? You've got to have the general picture of what the Hagadah. So that's what I want to do with these shurim. I'm not going to go into vortlach. I'm not going to do that. Right? I'm going to try very hard to stay away from that. What I want to do is I want to paint the picture of what the Hagadah is doing. There's different stages of what's happening, and why did the Hagadah pick this? Why did I want to do it like that? What is that relevant to me right now? Okay, that's what we're going to try and do in this shurim. Okay, I hope that's clear, right? Okay, all right, we'll say that, and let's start. So let's start with the halachma. Magid, the chiyuv of Magid, the mitzvah of Magid, starts with halachma. Right? Okay. Any questions, by the way? I call it a All right. Okay. All right. Fine. So it starts with halachma. So let's read halachma. Right. So halachma anya. The achra batana bar de Mitzrayim. Kol techvinyet v'yachol. Kol tetzrichet v'yifsach. Hashda hacha l'shana haba bar de Yisrael. Hashda avdei l'shana haba b'nei chorin. So that means this is the bread, the lechem oni. Right, now we know that matzah has it's like got two sides of the coin to it. It's lechem oni, which is poor man's bread. It also represents cheres. That's a famous kasha. How can these two things coexist? Right? And you see over here that the halachma, he starts out, the first thing that you point out is that it's lechem oni. Why does the Baal Hagadah pick up on that? So now, halachma anya da'achra v'tana bara de Mitzrayim kol dechvinyeti v'yachol, and this is the main point of the halachma. You invite everyone, anybody that needs, let them come and eat with us. Kol detzarich yeti v'yifsach, anybody that wants can come and join the Korban Pesach with us. Hashda hacha l'shana haba bara de Yisrael, hashda avdei l'shana haba b'nei chorin. Right? Why do you do that? Why is the first thing that the Hagadah starts off by doing is saying, you've got to be able to invite anyone and everyone to your Seder table. Why? Why is that a relevant thing to start out the Chiyuv of Magid with?
Cherut.
Right? Ma cherut. Is it cherut?
Ability to invite people.
Because the ability to invite people. I think it's much deeper than that, right? Okay, so I'll explain to you. It's true, but I think I'm not sure if that's the Nukudwa. All right, so I'll tell you what the voice is like this. Here is the Baal Hagadah is actually telling you one of the central themes of what the Leila Seder is. Right, what the Leila Seder is. The Leila Seder is, if you were to say what happened on the night of Seder, and Dafka that night, Dafka, the Leila of Makat Bechorot, right? What happened then? It's one thing which is called the Leila of Klal Yisrael. That is what happened on the Leila Seder. At the point, Bechatzot Leila, when Hakadosh Baruch Hu did Makat Bechorot, that is the point, the very moment when Klal Yisrael were born. as Klal Yisrael. That's what it's about. And that now becomes the Segura. They become the nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They become the ambassadors of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Olam Hazeh. And they're now going to be taken out of Mitzrayim and taken to Matan Torah to be Makabel Torah. Now, here's the Nakuda. The whole point of the Leidah of Klal Yisrael is that you should now be Makabel Torah. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu starts off his whole introduction to Moshe Rabbeinu at the snare. He says, why do I want to take them out? Leman tavdu noti b'har hazeh, so that they should serve me on this mountain. There was at Har Sinai, that's where the snare happened. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm taking them out so that they should now come and be Makabel Torah. Right? That's what. So in other words, so what we're saying, the Leila Seder is the Leidah of Klal Yisrael, which is the nation which represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. And what does that mean? That means that they're the nation that they are the Makabli HaTorah. They are the ones that they're Makabel Torah, and they live and breathe and act and represent the Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Ratzon in the world. That is what the Leila Seder is. Now, right, here's the Nakuda. Torah is way, way, way bigger than one person. It's not shaykh that one person should be makabel the whole Torah. That's why the Ovis, right, the Maharal explains this in a number of places. Other people say this as well. That's why the Ovis didn't get why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu give the Torah to the Ovis? Why not? Don't tell me they weren't worthy. They were definitely worthy, right? Yeah. Oh, they weren't a klal, right? It says that they were a mishpacha. Right. The Maharal in Gvuras in Perik Vav or something like that, Dalet Hey Vav, somewhere around there, right? He explains this. There had to be dafka shishim riboy to be makabel Torah. Why shishim riboy? There's a whole reason for that. Lo lachshav. But the nekuda is that for there to be Kabbalah Satorah, there has to be an there has to be a nation. And the reason why there has to be a nation is because Torah is way, way bigger than any one individual. It's too much. It's the Chokhmah in Sofit. It can't be that one person is makabel that. Now, what does it say? There's a famous Gemara. I'll bring this out.
How could Moshe do it?
Oh, I'm about to talk about that, right? Yeah. So it says that there's a Gemara that says Rabbi Akiva, the Talmidim were sleeping, and Rabbi Akiva said there was one woman in Mitzrayim that gave birth to Shishim Riboy, and everyone woke up. Right? You've heard this Gemara, right? It's a Gemara, right? So the Talmidim was sleeping even in the Shir of Rabbi Akiva, right? Sometimes it was the end of Zman. It was Sof Zman. Hanireh, it was Sof Zman. That's why they were talking about Pesach, right? So it was tough. So Rabbi Akiva says there was one woman that gave birth to Shishim Riboy. Everyone woke up. What are you talking about? So Zeyo Cheved, that she gave birth to Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what the Gemara says. Moshe Rabbeinu was Keneged Shishim Riboy. What does that mean? Right? Moshe Rabbeinu was a Nes. You have to know that. Moshe Rabbeinu was Be'etzem. He was a Nes Golui, that there's one man that then can be makabel the entire Torah. And what does the Gemara say? This you've definitely heard. The Gemara in Megillah says that Moshe Rabbeinu was given all of the chidushim that anybody's ever going to say, right? At Ma'amad Har Sinai, every pun, every facet of Torah was given to Moshe Rabbeinu ad biat hagoel. That's a nes. But that's what Torah is. It's way, way, way bigger than any one individual. You need to have a nation. You need to have an There has to be a shishim riboy that to be makabel that thing. And that's the oimek, by the way. There's a vort that I realized this year. The Mishnah says, Ezu chacham halomed mikol adam. Who is wise that learns from everyone? What's the pshat? The pshat is that the Torah in its entirety is by the whole of Klal Yisrael, not by any one person. That means that there's every person that has something to teach me. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Torah to Klal Yisrael as a whole. There's not one person that has. Torah is much bigger than, it's not just, there's endless mahalchim in Torah. There's different darkei alimud, there's different levels of Torah, there's pshat, remez, drush, soid. It's endless. Everybody has, if you're a chacham, you realize that and you understand that everybody in Klal Yisrael has something to teach you. Everything. Because Torah rests as a whole in Klal Yisrael, right? Not in any one person. So Amela, this is what Yetzias Mitzrayim is. Yetzias Mitzrayim is the leader of the that they are going to be the Makabli Torah. So what does the halachma do? The halachma says like this, right? Know that you've got to be willing to invite everybody to your Seder table. Everybody, because this is the night that it's not your night and it's not your family and it's not your... No. This night belongs to Klal Yisrael as a whole. And if you detach yourself from anybody, in Klal Yisrael as a whole, so then you're not shaykh to the whole thing. You're out. You've got to... this is Klal Yisrael's night. So anybody that needs Pesach, everybody that wants to join, tavo. Zelo sheli. What's happening here? It's not my story. It's not my Seder table. It's about the as a whole. So anybody that wants has to come in. And if you detach yourself, if you distance yourself from Klal Yisrael, you're totally out. Because you can't be Makabel Torah like that. You can't be an ambassador of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You can't represent the Kadosh Baruch Hu like that as a yochid. No, you have to see yourself as a chelik of Klal Yisrael. So Mele, everybody. Everybody is shaykh now. Everyone.
That's what it's at the beginning of Magid and not before Kaddish, or?
Yeah. This is the first thing.
Yeah, it's not a real invite.
It's not a real invitation. It's not a real invitation because otherwise it would be at the beginning of Kaddish.
Or you do it in shul or 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
You want to say? You should say it before.
Yeah,
okay. I hear right, Beseda, but it doesn't matter though. But I hear the horror. But Lemaisa, the Maggid is telling you, huh?
Is that not the whole point?
The what?
Yeah.
That is the ultimate introduction to Maggid.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's what I'm about to say. I hear what you're saying, but here again. The Baal HaGadah is putting this at the beginning of Maggid, right? Because he wants you to know that he's telling you that you have to realize that this is not about you. This is not about you.
Also, you have 30 days before the Chag to prepare. So you have 30 days.
That's also true. That's also true, right? But here's the vault. By the way, also, why is it Oini? And Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac says this here, and the Maharal says the same thing. Why Lechem Oini? Because Lechem Oini is the way he says it. Geshmak. Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac says a bit. By the way, I'm a major fan of the Hagadah of Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Kover. He sits with me every Leila Seder, and the reason for it is, for me, he builds a mahalach. He basically, if you have the Hagadah, the first part of the Hagadah is a drosha of Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac, what's called Paseach Yad, right? It's Paseach Yad, where it's about a 20-page drosha on what the whole Yetzias Mitzrayim is about, and then his whole pirush on the Hagadah is showing that throughout the whole Hagadah, and I think it's gewaldig, right? It's absolutely amazing, right? So I'm a major fan. So this is the Hagadah that I use, right, always, right? So now, right, the way he says it like this, the way he says it is that Lechem Oini is a remes to Pas B'melech Toicha. In other words, if you want to be Makabel Torah, right, this is the whole inyan. It's the leader of the that they're the Makabel HaTorah. And if you're the leader of the that are Makabel HaTorah, you have a very specific relationship with Gashmias. You have a relationship with Gashmias that it's, I'll say how the Maharal says it, which is, it's not mukrav, it's not complicated. Harkava is a simon of Olam Hazeh. You know, it's got this flavor and that knach and that's very Olam Hazadik, right? A person that he's relating to Olam Hazeh in a way that comes from above, right? That he's connected to something bigger. It's a very simple relationship with Olam Hazeh, pashut, because it's not the end in itself. It's a means to something. It's a means to be makadesh, right? So lechem oini dafka, that it's got nothing, right? It's got nothing in it. That represents cheres. That's the two-edged sword of matzah, right? Because it's dafka, the fact that I'm connected to something above, right? I'm connected to something outside of Olam Hazeh. That's why my lechem is oini, right? And it's dafka here that you said, understand that here is the leader of Klal Yisrael, that they are the Makabri HaTorah. They are the ones that are representing a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world. That's what tonight is about. Lechem oni. This is our relationship with Olam Hazeh. Pas B'melech Toichal. Because our kesher to Olam Hazeh is in as much as it represents a Kadosh Baruch Hu and nothing else. We're not interested in Olam Hazeh for its own right, that it should be murkav and we get all into the details. No. It's a simple thing. It's a platform to be Megala Kvod Shamayim. That's it. Right? Okay? Right? That is the introduction of the Baal Hagadah. It's about Klal Yisrael, it's shaykh to everyone, because you are the nation that you were born today, and you are the nation that are the Makabli Torah, and therefore you must understand that everybody is shaykh to this. This is not about you. This is about something much bigger than you as an individual. Okay? Right? That's the halachma. We'll start tomorrow with the Manishtana. Right? That's the next din in the Haggadah. We'll see, which is that you have to ask Sheilot. It has to be Derech Sheila v'Tshuva, Shaila and Tshuva. Right? That's another din in the Gemara. Right? And the way that that's done there is by Manishtana. There's Gemaras. There's loads of Gemaras that in Arabic Psachim. For those of you that are doing the Daf Yomi right now, you know. Someone asked the question and says, "Oh, you were yoyt me with manishtana," right? It's a critical aspect that you have to have. It has to be derech she'ela v'tshuva, right? So we'll explain that tomorrow. Okay, Ad kan.
Shkoya.